Many rooms, one dwelling, rethinking our promised final destination for our journey here on earth. There's a line in the Gospel of John that most of us followers of Christ have heard so many times that it's almost been dulled by our familiarity. Jesus says, "In my Father's house are many rooms," and almost without really thinking about it, we've been trained to hear it one specific way. Some time in the future, somewhere in the distance, heaven as the place waiting for us. A kind of ethereal and glorious eternal housing arrangement. But if we slow down and actually stay inside of one other particular room, the upper room, and that upper room discourse, LOL, and not just import our typical assumptions into it, then that new kind of take could feel like it may be hinting at something else. Because Jesus doesn't let that idea of dwelling stay far away. He keeps pulling it closer. I go to prepare a place for you, and if I go, I will come again and receive you to myself, so that where I am, you may be also. First, he says he's going. Then he tells the disciples he's coming back again. And sure, some will say when Jesus said, "I will come to you again," he was only talking about the resurrection there. And yes, he did return to them after the cross. But if that's all he meant there, then the rest of his words start to feel unnecessary. Because he doesn't stop just at the idea of him appearing again. He goes on to speak of a kind of presence that remains, of the Father and the Son making their home within them. That kind of idea goes beyond a single moment we can witness. It points to a life we can all inhabit. So the resurrection may be the first answer to that promise, but not its full meaning. Then he says they already know the way. Then he says he is the way. And then, without warning, the direction turns inward on us. He says that we will come to a man and make our home with him. In the original Greek, he uses the same root word for this, expressing the same idea. But now it's no longer about where you go. It's about where God dwells. To elaborate on this, when Jesus says, "In my Father's house are many rooms," the Greek word he uses for rooms, mone, has the same root word that he later uses when he says, "We will come to him and make our home with him." It's not two different ideas. It's based on the same word. So whatever those rooms are, they're not just distant spaces. They're places of dwelling, places where something truly abides. And then he turns it so that what sounded like something out there becomes something happening right here. The dwelling of God is no longer just where you go, but where he comes to remain. So the Holy Spirit is where this stops being just a promising idea and becomes real. Jesus doesn't introduce him as an extra detail. He introduces him as the way this works. Not a force, not a feeling, but a presence that actually dwells. He will be in you. So whatever place is being prepared, whatever those rooms are, this is how they're opened. The Spirit doesn't point you somewhere else. He makes you a place where that life can remain, not just a distant metaphorical symbol, but actual indwelling. Jesus calls the Spirit the Helper, but that's not a small thing. The word means one who comes alongside and then does not leave. Not just near you, but within you. That's the difference. Not just guidance from a distance, but a life that actually dwells. This realization is so very profound in its implications when one stops to really ponder about this fact. A man can, and many men have, and will continue to expound greatly on this indwelling, that inside-out turning, or gloriously manifested working of God. Some will say that the Father's house talk is only about heaven, something that begins after we die. And yes, it may reach that far, but it doesn't at all really start just there. because Jesus doesn't speak as if this is all delayed. Abide in me, and I in you. I am the vine, you are the branches. We will come to him and make our home with him, he says. That doesn't sound like just future heaven language. That's right here, right now language. A branch doesn't wait to connect to the vine. It either abides or it doesn't, and every meaning flows from that. Also, nothing in that passage describes a rapture. It seems to describe indwelling, God making his home with man, not taking man somewhere else. So, if this were only about later, the language wouldn't sound like this, because the life he's pointing to doesn't wait to begin. It's already here. I know this can all sound like it's ignoring the obvious. We all die. And because of that, our attention naturally fixes on what comes after. That's understandable. But if what we carry is not temporary, if there is something in us that actually endures, then it's worth asking what kind of awareness can stand in that kind of reality. Not just later, but now. Because if consciousness itself continues, then what we allow to take shape within it matters. Not as speculation, but as part of our preparation. And if that's true, then thinking through these things isn't a distraction. It's alignment. And that's where this starts pressing on our entire understood framework of eschatology. Because if the many rooms are not just distant locations, then what exactly is being prepared? What is the place? Is it possible that what Jesus is opening there is not geography, but capacity? Not square footage in heaven, but the expansion of reality itself to hold something it couldn't hold before. Or maybe more precisely, people are being formed who can hold that new kind of capacity. We've been taught to think of the end as a timeline, events, sequences, markers. But the upper room discourse doesn't read like a timeline. It reads like a convergence, a narrowing toward one center. Everything folding toward one central question. Where does God actually dwell? And how does that dwelling become shared? And once you ask that question, the rest of Scripture starts lining up to our expectations and assumptions differently. The temple was never just a building. It was the place where heaven and earth overlapped. The house of God was never just architecture. It was a domain of shared life under one head. The kingdom was never just territory. It was rule expressed through presence. The kingdom is within you, Jesus said. 3 images, 1 idea, habitation. So when Jesus says there are many rooms in the Father's house, he's not switching metaphors. He's intensifying one, because later that same language turns directly toward the believer. You are the temple. Christ in you. The kingdom is within you. Not separate ideas. Different rhetorical angles on the same reality. And this is where things get uncomfortable if we let it land, because the question shifts. It's no longer, is there a place for me? It becomes, is there room in me? If the Father's house is not limited to a distant location, if the temple is no longer confined to stone, if the kingdom is present, active, and able to take root within us, then the many rooms begin to sound less like separated destinations and more like many real sites of indwelling. One life, one source, actually dwelling fully in many. Not divided, not diluted, but expressed. And that's where this starts brushing up against language people get nervous about. Because when you start describing a reality where God is present in many people, the same life flows through all who are connected to him. The dwelling of God is not confined to one place. And someone may say, hold on, that sounds like pantheism. But it isn't, and the difference matters. Pantheism says everything is God. No distinction, no center, no authority outside the system. But what Jesus describes is not that. He never collapses the distinction. He says, I am in the Father. You are in me. I am in you. That is not sameness. That is ordered indwelling. The vine and the branches make this even clearer. Because when Jesus shifts to the vine and the branches, he's not changing subjects. He's clarifying the same thing from another angle. A branch doesn't try to produce life. It doesn't generate anything on its own. It either remains connected or it doesn't. And everything flows from that. So when he says, "Abide in me and I in you," he's not offering a devotional suggestion. He's describing structure, source, and expression. One life, moving through many without becoming many sources. And that's the line that keeps this from drifting into something vague or pantheistic. The branch is not the vine. It doesn't become the origin. But it can be so fully joined that the life of the vine moves through it without obstruction. That's what abiding is. Not striving, not imitation, but participation. And once you see that, the question changes. Not, what am I producing? But what am I actually connected to? Because everything else follows from that. The branch is not the vine. It does not become the source. It does not generate its own life. But it can be so fully connected that the life of the vine flows through it without obstruction. That's not pantheism. That's participation. And that's the word most people have lost. Participation, not absorption, not equality of essence, not everything is divine, but real shared life, given, received, lived. So when we come back to many rooms, the image becomes more vivid. The Father's house is not a scattered set of independent ethereal units. It is one living reality, capable of being fully present in many without losing its unity. And those rooms are not isolated. They're connected by the same life, the same source, the same indwelling presence. Now bring that back into eschatology. If this is true, then the so-called end is not just about where we go. It is about what reality becomes capable of holding. A world where God is not resisted, His presence is not fragmented, His life is not obstructed. And if that process has already begun, if even now in part that indwelling is real, then eschatology isn't just future. It's breaking in. Not fully seen, not fully realized, but present, active, growing. Which means the preparation Jesus spoke of may not just be happening somewhere else. It also means that all the things we see in the world right now are not at all doom and gloom, but a most glorious working of the vine working through the abiding branches. We can see this if we get away from this world's training in us not to see it. So, when Jesus says, "I go to prepare a place," not just out there, but in here, because the place he prepares becomes a dwelling, and that dwelling becomes a room within you. It may be happening here, in people, in perception, in the slow removal of everything that cannot hold that kind of life. And that may realign everything, because now the question is no longer when does it happen? It becomes what is being formed that could sustain it. The Father's house is not small. It does not run out of space. The limitation is not in anything about him. And so the line remains, not as comfort alone, but as a kind of pressure. In my Father's house are many rooms. Yes. But has one being made ready in you?